The black Mercedes pulled up to the private aviation terminal at Teterboro Airport on a Tuesday morning. Dr. Amanda Roberts stepped out, stretching her arms after the long drive from Manhattan. She looked nothing like what people expected a billionaire to look like. Her favorite worn jeans, comfortable sneakers, and a simple gray hoodie made her blend in with college students rather than corporate executives. Amanda had just finished a grueling 3-day business conference in Chicago. Her tech company had recently gone public, making her one of the youngest African-American women to build a billion-dollar empire. But right now, all she wanted was to get home to her family in California. She grabbed her small backpack from the car and walked toward the gleaming white aircraft parked on the tarmac. The Gulfstream G650 was beautiful. She still couldn't believe it was really hers. 2 weeks ago, her business manager had called with the news that the purchase was complete. $70 million for her own private jet. Growing up in Detroit, she never imagined she'd own something like this. Her grandmother used to clean offices in downtown buildings, and here she was, walking toward her own plane. As Amanda approached the aircraft stairs, she noticed 2 people in crisp uniforms standing near the entrance. The captain was a tall white man in his 50s with silver hair and a stern expression. Next to him stood a flight attendant, a woman in her 30s with perfectly styled blonde hair and an air of superiority. "Excuse me, miss," the captain called out as Amanda got closer. His voice carried that tone adults use when they think they're talking to a child who's wandered into the wrong place. "This is a private aircraft. The main terminal is back that way." Amanda smiled politely. She was used to this kind of reaction. "Actually, this is my plane. I'm Amanda Roberts." The captain and flight attendant exchanged a look, the kind of look that said everything without words. The flight attendant stepped forward, crossing her arms across her chest. "Ma'am, this aircraft belongs to a very important client," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "I think there might be some confusion here. Maybe you're looking for a different plane." Amanda felt that familiar knot forming in her stomach. The same feeling she'd gotten in boardrooms when investors questioned her credentials. The same feeling from luxury stores where salespeople followed her around. But she kept her voice calm and professional. "There's no confusion. I'm Dr. Amanda Roberts, CEO of Roberts Tech Solutions. I purchased this aircraft 2 weeks ago through Premier Aviation Management." The captain laughed. Actually laughed. "Look, young lady, I don't know who put you up to this, but this isn't funny. This plane costs more than most people make in 10 lifetimes. Now, I'm going to ask you nicely one more time to head back to the main terminal." Amanda reached into her backpack for her phone. She had all the documentation on her mobile device, plus her assistant's contact information. But as soon as she moved toward her bag, both crew members stepped back like she was reaching for a weapon. "Whoa there," the captain said, holding up his hands. "Let's keep our hands where we can see them." "I'm just getting my phone," Amanda said slowly, showing them her movements. "I can call my assistant to verify everything." The flight attendant shook her head. "People like you always have stories, always have excuses. Do you have any idea what kind of person owns a plane like this? They don't show up in hoodies and sneakers." Those words hit Amanda like a punch to the gut. People like you. She'd heard variations of that phrase her entire life. In college when professors questioned her research. In Silicon Valley when venture capitalists doubted her business plans. And now here, at her own airplane. "What exactly do you mean by people like me?" Amanda asked, her voice still steady but with an edge of steel. The flight attendant's cheeks turned red. "I just mean, you know, young people. You probably saw this plane on social media and thought it would be fun to pretend." But Amanda knew exactly what she meant, and so did the captain, who was nodding along like everything made perfect sense. "Sir, I need you to understand something," Amanda said, looking directly at the captain. "I built my company from nothing. I have 3 degrees from MIT. My software is used by Fortune 500 companies around the world. I earned every dollar that bought this plane." The captain's expression didn't change. If anything, he looked more skeptical. "MIT, huh? That's a good story. But I've been in this business for 30 years and I know what real success looks like. It doesn't look like..." He gestured at her outfit. Amanda felt her phone buzz. A text from her assistant asking if everything was okay with her flight. She showed the screen to the crew members. See? My assistant is asking about my flight. She arranged this entire trip. The flight attendant glanced at the phone screen and smirked. Anyone can change a contact name. I could make my pizza delivery guy's number say, personal assistant. 2. Other people were starting to notice the commotion. Ground crew members working nearby kept glancing over. A few people with phones were positioning themselves to get a better view. Amanda realized this situation was about to become much bigger than just a misunderstanding. Listen, she said, trying one more time to be reasonable. I understand you're trying to protect the aircraft, that's your job. But I'm telling you, this is my plane. If you want to verify that, we can call Premier Aviation Management right now. The captain pulled out his radio. Control, this is Captain Miller on the Roberts aircraft. We have a situation here. I need security to respond to our location. We have an individual attempting to gain unauthorized access to the aircraft. Amanda's heart sank. Security was being called. Soon this would be completely out of hand. She thought about her kids at home, probably getting ready for school. She thought about her employees who looked up to her. She thought about her grandmother, who had taught her to always hold her head high no matter what. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. A very big mistake. The flight attendant rolled her eyes. The only mistake here is you thinking you could pull this scam. Do you have any idea how much trouble you're in for trespassing on private property? Amanda looked at her plane one more time. The aircraft she'd dreamed about owning since she was a little girl watching planes fly overhead in Detroit. The symbol of everything she'd worked for. And here she was, being treated like a criminal for trying to board her own property. She pulled out her phone again, this time to call her lawyer. If these people wanted to do this the hard way, she was ready. But as she dialed, she couldn't help but wonder how many other successful people had been judged by their appearance instead of their achievements. How many dreams had been crushed by people who couldn't see past their own assumptions. The sound of approaching footsteps told her security was almost there. Amanda straightened her shoulders and prepared for whatever came next. She'd faced bigger challenges than this, and she'd overcome them all. This wouldn't be any different. But deep down, she knew this moment would change everything. Amanda tried calling her assistant 3 times, but each call went straight to voicemail. Rebecca was probably in a meeting or dealing with the morning rush at the office. The missed calls only made Captain Miller and the flight attendant more suspicious. Convenient, the flight attendant said with a smirk. Your assistant isn't answering. What a surprise. Amanda felt her patience wearing thin, but she kept her voice level. She's probably busy. It's Tuesday morning, and our company has 3 major client presentations today. Captain Miller stepped closer, his chest puffed out like he was dealing with a dangerous criminal. Look, I don't know what kind of game you're playing here, but it ends now. Airport security is on their way, and when they get here, you're going to have some serious explaining to do. The only explaining I need to do is why I'm being treated like this at my own aircraft, Amanda replied. She could feel her heart racing, but years of dealing with difficult investors and skeptical board members had taught her to stay calm under pressure. The flight attendant laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the morning air. Your aircraft? Honey, do you have any idea what you're claiming here? This plane costs $70 million. That's more money than some small countries have in their entire budget. Amanda nodded. I know exactly how much it cost. I wrote the check. Right, Captain Miller said, rolling his eyes. And I'm secretly a movie star. Listen, kid, I've been flying rich people around for 30 years. I know what wealth looks like, and it doesn't look like you. Those words stung more than Amanda wanted to admit. She thought about all the times she'd been underestimated because of how she looked or dressed. In college, professors who assumed she was only there because of affirmative action. In Silicon Valley, investors who questioned whether a young black woman could really understand technology. And now here, being judged by 2 people who had decided her worth based on her hoodie and sneakers. What does wealth look like to you? Amanda asked quietly. The flight attendant gestured toward the plane. Real wealthy people arrive in limousines. They wear designer clothes. They have entourages and bodyguards. They don't show up alone in jeans looking like they just rolled out of bed. Amanda almost smiled at that. If only they knew she'd chosen to live differently than most billionaires. No flashy cars or designer clothes. No army of assistants following her around. She'd seen how that lifestyle changed people, made them lose touch with reality. Her grandmother had taught her to stay grounded no matter how high she climbed. But these two wouldn't understand that philosophy. More airport workers were gathering around now. Baggage handlers stopped their work to watch. Ground crew members pulled out their phones. Amanda could see at least 3 people recording the confrontation. She knew that in today's world, videos like this could go viral in minutes. You know, what? Captain Miller said, his voice getting louder. I'm tired of playing games. Security will be here any minute, and when they arrive, you're going to be arrested for trespassing, attempted theft, and probably a dozen other charges. Attempted theft? Amanda's eyebrows shot up. How exactly am I trying to steal my own property? Because it's not your property, the flight attendant snapped. Stop lying. We know who owns this plane, and it sure isn't you. Amanda felt something shift inside her. The polite, patient version of herself was getting pushed aside by the fighter who had built a billion-dollar company from nothing. Actually, you don't know who owns this plane. If you did, you'd know that Dr. Amanda Roberts purchased this aircraft through Premier Aviation Management 2 weeks ago. You'd know that I'm the CEO of Roberts Tech Solutions, which went public 6 months ago. You'd know that my software powers the security systems for half the airports in this country. Captain Miller snorted. Security systems? You mean like video games? Amanda stared at him. Video games? My company develops cybersecurity software for governments and Fortune 500 companies. We protect financial institutions, hospitals, and yes, airports from cyber attacks. The system you used to file your flight plan this morning? There's a good chance my company's software is protecting it. The flight attendant looked confused for a moment, but then her expression hardened again. Anyone can make up fancy stories. I could say I'm the Queen of England, but that doesn't make it true. You're right, Amanda said. Stories are just words, but documentation is facts, and I have all the facts on my phone. She started to reach for her backpack again, but Captain Miller held up his hand. I already told you to keep your hands visible. For all we know, you could have anything in that bag. Amanda couldn't believe what she was hearing. You think I'm armed? You think I'm some kind of threat? I'm a businesswoman trying to board her own airplane. We don't know what you are, the flight attendant said. All we know is that you're not supposed to be here. The crowd around them was growing larger. Amanda could hear whispered conversations from the onlookers. Some people seemed confused about what was happening. Others were clearly enjoying the drama. A few looked uncomfortable, like they recognized something wrong was happening but didn't know what to do about it. Amanda's phone rang. Finally, Rebecca was calling back. She answered quickly, putting the call on speaker so everyone could hear. Dr. Roberts, I'm so sorry I missed your calls. The Peterson meeting ran long, and then we had that emergency with the Johnson account. Are you at the airport? Is everything okay with your flight? The area went quiet. Even the background noise from other aircraft seemed to fade. Captain Miller and the flight attendant looked at each other, uncertainty creeping into their expressions for the first time. I'm at the airport, Amanda said clearly. But there seems to be some confusion about the aircraft ownership. Confusion? Rebecca's voice came through the phone speaker, reaching everyone in the growing crowd. What kind of confusion? I have all the paperwork right here. The Gulfstream G650, registration number November 1234 Alpha Romeo, purchased through Premier Aviation Management for $70 million. The deed of ownership is in your name. What's the problem? Captain Miller's face was starting to lose its confident expression. The flight attendant looked like she was trying to solve a difficult math problem in her head. Amanda looked directly at both crew members. Would you like to speak with my assistant directly? She can verify every detail of the purchase. But before either of them could answer, the sound of approaching vehicles filled the air. 2 white airport security cars were driving across the tarmac toward them, their yellow lights flashing. Amanda felt her stomach drop. This was really happening. She was about to be questioned by security officers at her own airplane. The crowd of onlookers pressed closer, phones held high to capture whatever happened next. Amanda realized that whatever occurred in the next few minutes would likely be seen by thousands of people online within hours. She looked at her beautiful plane one more time and wondered if she'd ever actually get to fly in it. Then she straightened her shoulders and prepared to face whatever came next. She'd built her entire career on fighting for what was right, and she wasn't about to stop now. The two security vehicles pulled up just as a black BMW sedan arrived from the opposite direction. Amanda's heart lifted when she saw David Thompson step out of the BMW. Her business manager and longtime friend had been handling all the details of the aircraft purchase. Behind him came Jennifer Walsh, her attorney, carrying a leather briefcase that probably contained enough legal documents to solve this mess. Officer Rodriguez climbed out of the first security car, followed by Officer Kim from the second vehicle. Both looked like they'd rather be dealing with actual security threats than whatever this situation was supposed to be. "What seems to be the problem here?" Officer Rodriguez asked, looking around at the crowd that had gathered. At least 20 people were watching now, most with their phones out. Captain Miller stepped forward quickly, eager to tell his version of events. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. This woman has been trying to gain unauthorized access to this aircraft. She's claiming it belongs to her, which is obviously impossible. We've been trying to handle the situation politely, but she won't leave." Officer Kim looked at Amanda, taking in her casual clothes and young appearance. "Ma'am, do you have any identification?" Before Amanda could answer, David stepped up beside her. "Good morning, officers. I'm David Thompson, business manager for Dr. Amanda Roberts." He gestured toward Amanda. "This is Dr. Roberts, and that aircraft behind you belongs to her." The flight attendant let out a nervous laugh. "Oh, now she has a whole team of people making up stories. This is getting ridiculous." David reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "I have all the documentation right here. Purchase agreement, registration papers, insurance, documents, and ownership transfer records." Officer Rodriguez took the folder and began flipping through the pages. His expression changed as he read. Officer Kim looked over his shoulder, and Amanda could see both men's faces shifting from skepticism to confusion, to something that looked like embarrassment. "This all appears to be in order," Officer Rodriguez said slowly. He looked up at Captain Miller and the flight attendant. "These documents show that Dr. Amanda Roberts is indeed the legal owner of this aircraft." Captain Miller's face went pale. "That's impossible. Those documents must be fake." Jennifer stepped forward, her professional attorney voice cutting through the morning air. "I'm Jennifer Walsh, Dr. Roberts' legal counsel. I can assure you that every document in that folder is completely legitimate. The aircraft was purchased 2 weeks ago through Premier Aviation Management for $70 million. The flight attendant was shaking her head like she could make reality go away through pure denial. "But look at her. She doesn't look like someone who owns a private jet." Those words hung in the air like a confession. Everyone in the crowd heard them. The phones recording everything captured them. And suddenly the real issue became crystal clear to everyone present. Officer Kim cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Ma'am, what exactly do you mean by that?" The flight attendant realized what she'd said and tried to backtrack. "I just meant, she's so young and she's dressed so casually. Rich people usually, they typically what?" Amanda asked quietly. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath it. David pulled out more papers from his briefcase. "Officers, I also have the employment contracts for the flight crew. Captain Miller and Ms. Johnson were hired through Elite Flight Services to operate this aircraft for Dr. Roberts." Captain Miller grabbed the papers, scanning them frantically. Amanda could see the exact moment when reality hit him. His hands started shaking slightly as he read his own employment contract, the one that clearly stated he worked for Dr. Amanda Roberts. "I don't understand," he whispered. "The management company told us we'd be working for a tech executive, but they never said..." "They never said what?" Jennifer asked, her lawyer instincts picking up on his unfinished sentence. Captain Miller looked at Amanda, then at the ground, then back at the papers in his hands. "They never said you were... They didn't mention that you were... black?" Amanda finished for him. "And young? And a woman?" The silence that followed was deafening. Even the background noise of the airport seemed to fade away. The crowd of onlookers pressed closer, sensing that something important was happening. Ms. Johnson, the flight attendant, was crying now. Not the kind of tears that come from sadness, but the kind that come from realizing you've made a terrible mistake that everyone is going to know about. "Dr. Roberts," Officer Rodriguez said, his voice much more respectful than it had been minutes earlier. "I apologize for this situation. It appears there's been a serious misunderstanding." Amanda looked around at all the faces staring at her. The airport workers who had stopped their jobs to watch. The other passengers who had come out of the terminal building. The people holding phones, recording everything for social media. She thought about her children who might see this video someday. She thought about her employees who looked up to her as a role model. She thought about every young black girl who dreamed of breaking barriers and building something amazing. "It wasn't a misunderstanding," she said clearly, making sure her voice carried to everyone listening. "A misunderstanding is when someone gets confused about facts. This was about assumptions. This was about two people looking at me and deciding what I could and couldn't be, what I could and couldn't own, what I could and couldn't achieve." Captain Miller tried to interrupt. "Dr. Roberts, please, I was just trying to do my job. I was protecting the aircraft like I was supposed to." Amanda turned to face him directly. "Protecting it from what? From its rightful owner? Your job was to be ready for my departure at 9 a.m. Instead, you decided to interrogate me, threaten me, and call security on me. All because I didn't look like what you expected a successful person to look like." David stepped closer to Amanda, showing his support. "Dr. Roberts built her company from nothing," he told the crowd. "She has 3 degrees from MIT. Her software protects some of the most important computer systems in the world. She employs over 500 people, and she earned every dollar that bought this aircraft through hard work, intelligence, and determination." Jennifer was taking notes, documenting everything for what Amanda knew would likely become a legal case. "We'll be filing formal complaints with both the airport authority and Elite Flight Services," she announced. "This kind of discrimination is unacceptable." Ms. Johnson was sobbing harder now. "I'm sorry," she kept repeating. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean. I never thought." But Amanda wasn't ready to accept apologies yet. Not when the damage was already done. Not when dozens of people had witnessed her being treated like a criminal at her own airplane. Not when she knew this video would be online within hours, showing the world what successful black women still had to deal with in 2024. Officer Kim handed the documents back to David. "Everything appears to be in order. Dr. Roberts, you're free to board your aircraft whenever you're ready." Amanda looked at her beautiful plane, then at the crew that was supposed to serve her, then at the crowd of people who had just witnessed something they'd probably never forget. "Actually," she said, her voice carrying a note of finality that made everyone pay attention, "I don't think I'm ready to fly just yet." Amanda walked slowly toward her aircraft, her footsteps echoing across the quiet tarmac. The crowd watched in complete silence as she climbed the stairs and disappeared inside the cabin. When she emerged 5 minutes later, her expression was calm but determined. "I've had some time to think," she announced, her voice carrying clearly to everyone gathered around. "And I've made some decisions." Captain Miller stepped forward nervously. His earlier confidence had completely vanished, replaced by the desperate look of a man who knew his career was hanging by a thread. "Dr. Roberts, please, if I could just explain." Amanda held up her hand, stopping him mid-sentence. "You'll get your chance to speak, but first, I want everyone here to understand what really happened today." She looked around at the faces surrounding her. Airport workers, security officers, other passengers, and several people she didn't recognize, who had stopped to watch the drama unfold. Many were still recording with their phones. 30 minutes ago, I walked up to my own airplane and was treated like a criminal," Amanda began. "Not because I was acting suspiciously, not because I couldn't provide identification, not because I was being rude or threatening. I was treated like a criminal because 2 people looked at me and decided I didn't belong here." Ms. Johnson was wiping tears from her face, but Amanda wasn't finished. Let me tell you what proper security protocol looks like, Amanda continued, her voice getting stronger. A professional crew member would have said, "Yeah, good morning, may I see your identification, please?" They would have checked my ID against their passenger manifest. They would have verified my identity through proper channels. What they wouldn't have done is immediately assume I was lying, trespassing, or trying to commit a crime, Captain. Miller tried to interrupt again, but we were just being careful. In today's world, you can't be too cautious about security. Amanda's eyes flashed. Security? You want to talk about security? I'm the CEO of a cybersecurity company. I understand security better than most people. And what happened here today had nothing to do with security and everything to do with prejudice. David stepped up beside Amanda, pulling out his phone. I've been in contact with Elite Flight Services, he announced. They're sending a representative to address this situation immediately. Jennifer was still taking notes, documenting every word for the legal record. We're also reviewing the employment contracts to understand how this situation occurred in the first place. Amanda looked directly at Captain Miller. Do you want to know what hurts the most about this? It's not that you questioned my ownership of the plane. Rich people face skepticism sometimes, and that's understandable. What hurts is that you saw a young black woman and immediately jumped to the worst possible conclusions about who I was and what I was doing here. Captain Miller's face was red with embarrassment and growing panic. Dr. Roberts, I swear to you, this wasn't about race. I would have questioned anyone who looked like what? Amanda asked sharply. Say it. Finish that sentence. The captain's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Everyone could see him struggling to find words that wouldn't make his situation worse. Ms. Johnson stepped forward, her voice shaky. Dr. Roberts, I know you probably won't believe this, but I really didn't mean any harm. I've never done anything like this before. I was just trying to do my job the way I was trained. Amanda studied the flight attendant's face. She could see genuine remorse there, mixed with fear about what this would mean for her career. But Amanda had learned long ago that good intentions didn't excuse harmful actions. How were you trained? Amanda asked. Were you trained to judge passengers by their clothes? Were you trained to assume that young people can't be successful? Were you trained to think that black women can't own expensive things? Ms. Johnson was crying harder now. No, I wasn't trained to think any of those things. I made assumptions, terrible assumptions, and I'm so sorry. Amanda felt some of her anger softening, but she wasn't ready to let either crew member off the hook completely. You know what's interesting? In the past year, my company has hired over 100 new employees. Engineers, programmers, marketing specialists, accountants. Do you know what I don't do when I meet them? I don't look at their age, their race, their gender, or their clothes and decide whether they're qualified to work for me. I look at their skills, their experience, and their character. Officer Rodriguez cleared his throat. Dr. Roberts, would you like us to file an official report about this incident? Amanda considered the question carefully. Filing a police report would make this situation even more serious for Captain Miller and Ms. Johnson, but it would also create an official record of what had happened. Yes, she said finally. I want this documented. Not because I want to destroy anyone's life, but because this kind of treatment needs to stop. And the only way it stops is when there are real consequences. David's phone buzzed with a text message. The representative from Elite Flight Services just arrived, he announced, pointing toward a woman in a business suit walking quickly across the tarmac. The woman approached the group, slightly out of breath from hurrying. Dr. Roberts, I'm Patricia Williams, Regional Manager for Elite Flight Services. I cannot begin to express how sorry we are about this situation. Amanda looked at the new arrival with interest. Ms. Williams, are you familiar with the details of what happened here? I've been briefed on the situation, Patricia replied, shooting angry looks at Captain Miller and Ms. Johnson. And I want you to know that this behavior is completely unacceptable and does not represent the values of our company. Captain Miller stepped toward his supervisor desperately. Patricia, you have to understand we were just being cautious. We didn't know. You didn't know what? Patricia snapped. You didn't know how to treat a client with basic respect? You didn't know how to follow proper identification procedures? What exactly didn't you know? Amanda watched the exchange with interest. She could see that Patricia Williams was genuinely angry about what her employees had done. But she also knew that anger alone wouldn't fix the deeper problems that had caused this situation. "Ms. Williams," Amanda said, "I appreciate your concern, but I need to know what Elite Flight Services is going to do to make sure this never happens again." Patricia nodded eagerly. "Absolutely. We're implementing immediate retraining for all our staff on proper customer service protocols and unconscious bias awareness. And of course, we'll be reviewing our hiring and training procedures to prevent situations like this." Amanda looked around at the crowd that was still watching every word. Some people were nodding in approval. Others looked uncomfortable, probably, wondering if they'd ever made similar assumptions about people based on appearances. "That's a good start," Amanda said. "But I think we need to talk about immediate consequences too." The silence that followed was heavy with anticipation. Captain Miller and Ms. Johnson looked terrified. Patricia Williams looked like she was preparing for the worst. And Amanda felt the weight of a decision that would affect multiple lives. Amanda looked at Captain Miller and Ms. Johnson one last time before making her decision. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on her. What she said next would affect not just these two people, but potentially thousands of others who would see the video footage that was already spreading across social media. "Captain Miller, Ms. Johnson," she said, her voice clear and steady. "Your employment with my aircraft is terminated, effective immediately." Ms. Johnson collapsed into tears. "Captain." Miller's face went completely white. Patricia Williams nodded grimly, knowing this decision was both inevitable and justified. "However," Amanda continued, raising her voice over Ms. Johnson's sobs, "I want you both to understand something important. I'm not firing you to be cruel. I'm firing you because actions have consequences, and because the next black woman who walks up to an airplane shouldn't have to go through what I went through today." She paused, looking around at the crowd that had grown even larger. News of the confrontation was spreading through the airport, and more people kept arriving to see what was happening. "But I also want you to learn from this," Amanda added. "Both of you are going to take unconscious bias training, real training, not just a quick online course. And when you're ready to work in this industry again, I hope you'll remember this day and treat every person with the respect they deserve." Captain Miller found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. "Dr. Roberts, I have a family. I've been flying for 30 years. This job is all I know." Amanda felt a pang of sympathy, but she didn't let it show. "You should have thought about your family before you decided to treat me like a criminal. Your experience means you should have known better, not worse." David stepped forward with an update. "Dr. Roberts, I just spoke with our media team. The video footage from this incident is already being shared on social media. It's getting thousands of views every minute." Amanda wasn't surprised. In today's world, everything was recorded and shared instantly. "What are people saying?" "Mixed reactions," David replied diplomatically. "Some people are outraged by how you were treated. Others are questioning the story or making excuses for the crew's behavior." Patricia Williams looked panicked. "Dr. Roberts, is there anything we can do to contain this situation? Maybe if we issued a joint statement?" Amanda shook her head. "I'm not interested in containing anything. What happened here needs to be seen. It needs to be discussed. Because this isn't just about me or this airplane. This is about every person who's ever been judged by their appearance instead of their accomplishments." Officer Rodriguez finished writing his report and handed Amanda a copy. "Ma'am, everything's been documented. If you need anything else from us, please don't hesitate to call." As the security officers left, Amanda noticed that several news crews were setting up outside the airport fence. Word was definitely getting out about what had happened. "Dr. Roberts," Jennifer said quietly, "we should probably prepare for media attention. This story is going to be big." Amanda nodded. She'd dealt with media attention before, but never like this. Usually interviews were about her company's success or new product launches. This would be different. Over the next hour, Amanda gave her statement to airport authorities and spoke briefly with a few reporters. She was careful to stick to the facts and avoid saying anything that could be seen as unnecessarily harsh toward Captain Miller and Ms. Johnson. By noon, the story was everywhere. Tech billionaire denied access to her own private jet was trending on social media. News websites were picking up the story. Radio shows were discussing it. And Amanda's phone wouldn't stop ringing with interview requests. 3 days later, Amanda was sitting in a television studio, being interviewed by a national news anchor about the incident and its aftermath. "Dr. Roberts," the anchor asked, "some people are saying you overreacted by firing the crew. What's your response to that?" Amanda had been expecting this question. "I think anyone who says I overreacted probably hasn't experienced what it's like to be judged and dismissed because of how you look. Those crew members didn't just make a mistake. They made assumptions based on prejudice, and they were willing to have me arrested rather than admit they might be wrong. What do you hope comes out of this situation?" Amanda thought carefully, before answering. "I hope it starts conversations. I hope it makes people think about their own assumptions. And I hope it leads to real changes in how service industries train their employees." The changes started almost immediately. Elite Flight Services announced a complete overhaul of their training programs, with mandatory bias education for all employees. Other aviation companies quickly followed suit, not wanting to face similar situations. Amanda used the attention to launch the Clear Skies Initiative, a program that provided scholarships for underrepresented minorities to pursue careers in aviation. Within 6 months, over 100 students had received funding for pilot training, aircraft maintenance programs, and aviation management degrees. The response wasn't all positive, of course. Amanda received hate mail and negative comments on social media. Some people accused her of playing the race card or being too sensitive. But for every negative comment, there were 10 positive ones from people sharing their own experiences with discrimination. 6 months after the incident, Amanda was back at the same airport, boarding the same aircraft. But this time, she was greeted by Captain Rodriguez and Flight Attendant Chen, her new crew who had undergone extensive training not just in aviation safety, but in treating all passengers with dignity and respect. "Good morning, Dr. Roberts," Captain Rodriguez said with a genuine smile. "We're honored to be flying with you today." Amanda smiled back. "Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with you." As the plane taxied toward takeoff, Amanda reflected on how much had changed. The incident that could have been just another story of discrimination had become a catalyst for real progress in the aviation industry. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca, her assistant. "The Peterson Foundation wants to partner with Clear Skies Initiative. They're offering $2 million in additional scholarship funding." Amanda typed back quickly. "Set up a meeting for next week." Looking out the window as the plane lifted off, Amanda thought about all the young people who would benefit from the scholarships. Students who might have been told they didn't belong in aviation, just like she'd been told she didn't belong at her own airplane. The incident at Teterboro Airport had been painful and humiliating, but it had also opened doors for conversations about bias, respect, and opportunity that might never have happened otherwise. Sometimes the worst moments in life become the catalyst for the most important changes. Amanda was living proof that standing up for yourself didn't just benefit you. It could change entire industries and create opportunities for countless others. As her plane climbed toward cruising altitude, Amanda opened her laptop and began working on her next project, a comprehensive study of discrimination in luxury service industries, funded by her foundation and designed to create lasting change across multiple sectors. The fight for equality was far from over, but today felt like progress.